Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a highly controversial topic that's not just making headlines, but also impacting families, schools, and the medical field. The growing trend of talking to kids and teens about changing their gender and allowing them to make irreversible decisions at a young age. Spoiler alert, I'm not okay with this. Let's unpack this issue and explore it from every angle, with data, real-life examples, and a lot of critical thinking. Kids are kids. Let's give them time to grow. Let's start with the basics. Kids are in a stage of constant change. One day they want to be astronauts. The next, they're dreaming of becoming veterinarians. This fluidity is part of growing up. Kids are still figuring out who they are, and their identity evolves over time. Introducing the idea of changing their gender at such a young age can add confusion and pressure they're not equipped to handle. Instead of encouraging them to explore who they are naturally, we're nudging them toward making life-altering decisions before they fully understand what that means. The case of Susana Dominguez, a wake-up call from Spain. Let me share a story from Spain that serves as a stark warning. Susana Dominguez, a 24-year-old from Galicia, is the first known case in Spain of a detransitioned person suing the public healthcare system for allowing her to undergo irreversible gender transition procedures. At just 15 years old, Susana started taking hormone treatments based on her self-diagnosis, which was influenced by internet forums. Health professionals failed to account for critical details like her family's history of mental health issues or her diagnoses of autism spectrum disorder, depression, and schizoid personality disorder. Susana now looks back and asks, "How could they let me make such a decision at 15? I was a teenager with problems, and they treated me like I was certain about something I couldn't fully understand." Her story echoes the growing number of detransitioners who regret their decisions and feel unsupported by the very systems that were supposed to help them. The case of Keira Bell, a similar story in the US and UK. This story isn't unique to Spain. In the United Kingdom, Keira Bell's case brought international attention to the risks of rushing young people into gender transition. Keira transitioned as a teenager and later regretted it, leading her to sue the Tavistock Clinic, a facility specializing in youth gender issues. Her case resulted in legislative changes and the eventual closure of Tavistock. It also highlighted the growing need for deeper psychological evaluations and long-term support for teens questioning their gender. In the US, we've seen similar debates. A study published in the Journal of Adolescent Health found that many young people who pursue transition are later diagnosed with conditions like anxiety or depression that may have contributed to their dysphoria. In states like California and Washington, there's ongoing controversy over policies that allow minors to access hormone treatments or even surgeries without parental consent in some cases. The role of social media and misinformation. One of the biggest challenges today is the influence of social media. Platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and Reddit have become hubs for gender-related content, often presenting transitioning as a cure-all for any emotional distress. Kids and teens are incredibly impressionable, and many feel pressured to label themselves or make decisions based on what they see online. A report from the American Academy of Pediatrics warns that social media can amplify feelings of inadequacy and confusion, especially among vulnerable youth. The legal landscape in the U.S. A growing divide. Here in the US, the conversation around gender and minors is deeply polarized. States like California and New York have passed laws making it easier for minors to access gender-affirming care, including puberty blockers and hormone therapy. At the same time, states like Texas and Florida are moving in the opposite direction, with bans on gender-affirming care for minors and increased scrutiny of clinics offering these services. These debates often pit parental rights against what some advocates call a child's autonomy, but the reality is far more complex. The responsibility of parents and schools. This brings me to a crucial question. Where are the parents in all of this? Schools and medical professionals are increasingly stepping into roles traditionally reserved for families, and this creates tension. Parents should have a say in whether their children are introduced to these topics and how those conversations unfold. In too many cases, families feel left out of the process entirely. Stories like Susana Dominguez's highlight what happens when systems prioritize affirming a child's immediate feelings over helping them navigate their emotions with time and care. What about the science? Let's talk about the medical side for a moment. Puberty blockers and hormone treatments are often presented as reversible, but studies suggest otherwise. A review from the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism found that puberty blockers can have long-term impacts on bone density, fertility, and brain development. Meanwhile, a growing number of medical professionals are calling for a more cautious approach. Countries like Sweden and Finland have already tightened restrictions on gender-affirming care for minors, emphasizing the need for psychological evaluations and long-term studies. Support, not pressure. Here's the thing. I'm not saying we shouldn't support kids who are struggling with their gender identity. In fact, we absolutely should. But support doesn't mean rushing them into decisions they might later regret. Support means giving them the tools, resources, and emotional safety to explore their feelings over time. It means involving parents, psychologists, and educators in a way that prioritizes the child's long-term well-being, not just their immediate desires. Final thoughts cases like Susana Dominguez's and Kira Bell's remind us of the gravity of these decisions. We're not just talking about pronouns or clothing choices. We're talking about life-altering medical procedures with permanent consequences. As a society, we need to approach these topics with care, caution, and an unwavering focus on protecting our youth. That means asking tough questions, challenging the rush to affirm without evaluation, and ensuring that families are at the center of these decisions. Let me know what you think in the comments. Is this something we need to talk about more? How can we strike a balance between support and caution? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more deep dives like this one. Thanks for watching. And remember, stay informed, stay critical, and always prioritize the well-being of our kids.